Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'm very grateful that Athina and Amy from Topology Interiors are joining us live from London and Berlin. So we are global right now, very exciting, and I'm joining from the States. My name is Risa Eldon, and I am the head of global partnerships here at Ivy. Ivy is a business management tool for interior designers to help you run and streamline and organize all of the moving parts of your interior design business. So today we're going to cover how to win more clients and ensure a healthy working relationship. But before I pass it over to Athina and Amy, I want to tell you a little bit about their interior design firm. So Topology Interiors are an award-winning blogger and interior design duo with Amy and Athina, based in both London and Berlin. They set up their business in 2016 and have since worked with some of UK's top brands like Made.com, Habitat, and HM Home. In addition to this, Amy and Athina have also designed all sorts of properties from rental homes to show flats and cafes, and now are not only working with the affordability factor in mind, but also with the emphasis of well-being in the home. So please help me in welcoming Amy and Athina, and I will let you ladies take it over. And at the end of our presentation, I will be sure to answer any of your questions about Ivy.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Risa. That was a really nice introduction. Yeah, as Risa said, so probably just good to say who we actually are. I'm Amy.
I'm Athina. Hello.
And yeah, so together we run Topology Interiors, and we're both interior designers. And today, hopefully, we can impart some of our knowledge onto you guys.
Yeah, so I think running a successful business does actually rely heavily upon knowing how to deal with every client need effectively, how to ensure you maintain a positive and healthy relationship with your paying clients. So we really wanted to kind of create this webinar for you guys to kind of impart this knowledge on you. And hopefully it will just help you learn some top tips for success when chatting with potential clients, discovering the kind of best phone call advice. We'll also be going over why CRM is important. If you're not sure what that is, we will be explaining it. And then lastly, some key ingredients for a successful client relationship. So I hope you'll find it really useful. So starting with top tips.
Okay, so our top tips for success when you chat with a potential client. Okay, so quite obviously, the initial contact with a potential client or a lead is extremely important, as this is the time that your potential client is exploring other competitors, or maybe they're not quite sure whether they even need your service at all. So it's sort of like make or break time, and the time when you can transfer them from just a potential lead into a paying client. So over the next few slides, we're just going to share our top tips, basically how you can do that.
So top tips for success with potential clients. So phase one would always be data capture, and this is really, really important. You need to yield their personal information in order to get in touch with them in the future. So email or telephone number is great, both is perfect, but if there's any extra information that you can get from them, this is really, really useful. So what you want to do is think of unique ways to get this information. So maybe you could put a subscribe button in your email signature. You could put some sort of link in your Instagram bio where they could kind of click on it and put some information and maybe register an interest in your service. You could even have like a questionnaire on your website where people could sign up, tell you about their kind of design projects and enter their details, and then you've got all of this information stored. The only thing to bear in mind with data capture for those in the UK is GDPR, because obviously there are lots of different laws about this now. So any information that you are yielding, just make sure that you are in compliance with GDPR laws.
Okay. So next up is a piece of advice that my first boss gave me that didn't give me much advice, but that was one that stuck with me. That's very useful. And it's never leave a call or an email without arranging the next step or a follow-up. I think we've always been in that, all of us have been in that situation where we want to get back in touch with a client, but we don't quite know what to say. So we just sort of go, hi, how are you doing? Have you had any more thoughts on this? It's a much stronger point of contact if you have a reason to get in touch with them. So for example, you could end your last email with them by saying, please send me the floor plans by the 20th of November. or I'm going to send you a quote next week, would be great to know your thoughts on it, or let me know your budget, or something like that. And basically, if they don't reply to you, then it just gives you a really good reason to get back in touch with them. The other point why this is really useful for you guys as well is we all want to avoid that hard sale. And I think that this is a much more natural way of getting back in touch with someone. It just seems like, you check your emails, oh, they haven't sent me this, I'm just going to follow that up.
Definitely. Cool. So the next step would be to follow up a client 7 times before giving up on them. Now, this may seem really drastic, but apparently, according to research, this is actually kind of the sweet spot. It's the ideal amount of times to chase a person before considering them as not going ahead or a lost lead. And I think a lot of us would give up maybe after 2 or 3 times. I know that I myself are guilty of this, but if you do persevere, and I think that is the key here, then you will be surprised the amount of people that can get back in touch with you, because if you follow them up, say 2 or 3 times and then stop, they'll forget about you. You need to be fresh and current in their memories, and just make sure that you do this as much as possible. So yes, perseverance is the key.
Okay, so next up is to construct an initial questionnaire, which you can send to any potential client. So this questionnaire can ask them various details, such as what their name and contact details are, but also what room they need help with, and also their budget. So why is this useful for you guys? Well, it allows you to store vital details about the client that you need to follow them up in the future, which I already touched on. It also allows you to create a comprehensive client brief that will help guide you throughout the design process. So for example, you might forget a certain detail. If you have this brief, you can just refer back to it. It also provides you with easily accessible information if the client gets in touch after some time has passed. So you might have experienced a client getting in touch with you and then they're not sure about going ahead. And then maybe a couple of months later, they email you out of the blue and say, hi, I'd like to go ahead now. And you think, what the hell? What are their details? If you've got this stored, you can access that immediately and say, hi, Sharon, I remember you wanted a bedroom design. You have a budget of 3K. Just makes you look like you're really on it and you've remembered them.
It also just going through email chains, doesn't it?
Exactly, which is not fun.
No.
Just a final point on this. If you don't already know Typeform, that's a really easy way to conduct a questionnaire. It's also free, just super easy, user-friendly. God, that was hard.
Cool. Okay, so moving on to phone call advice to win more clients. So the best form of initial contact usually takes place on the telephone. Why? Well, talking on the phone is actually a lot more personal for obvious reasons, and research does back this up to show that a phone call can result in a higher chance that the client will go ahead by about 30 to 50%. So even if you're maybe having email contact with someone, just see if you can get their telephone number as well and schedule a phone call, as it's much more personal and the client is generally more likely to go ahead with you in the future.
Okay, so continuing on from what Athina was saying about phone calls, we have some advice for basically what you can actually say. So do ask quite personal questions, such as, do you have young children that are going to be using this room? Or will be using this area to relax in the evenings? Or something like, do you have pets in the space? Or do you entertain people a lot? Basically, as interior designers, we've got to remember that the home is a really personal thing. So by asking these questions, you're really getting an idea of how their space needs to function for them. Because it's all very well designing a pretty space, but if it doesn't function, it's sort of pointless. And it also just shows that you care and that you're in tune with their thinking, really. Another way this might help is it creates more of an informal conversation, so it makes people feel more relaxed around you and therefore they will trust you more. And I think also this is really important for online or maybe remote designers, which a lot of you might be. A lot of Athina and I's work is like this. Traditional interior designers obviously go into their homes, they have a lot of meetings with the client. It can be a little bit invasive, and this is sort of like one selling point that online design has. And I think it's really good that the client feels relaxed around you. So by asking these questions early on, you basically get an idea of who they are straight away.
Cool. So we believe that there are 2 main questions which are really useful for yielding insightful information from a lead, and that will result in more client conversions. And you'll see them on the screen here, and they do look quite basic, but we'll just briefly go over and explain why they are so important. So the first one is quite simply, how did you hear about us? We would always recommend prioritizing this question. And this is because you want to find out how much the potential client knows about you already and your work. So for example, if you ask them this question and they say, oh, I found you through Instagram, you might know then that they've seen a lot about your personal life, a lot about your projects, what you do on a day-to-day basis. And in light of this, you don't want to just go off on a spiel telling you so much information about you, because the chances are is that they've actually already found out this information. Whereas if you were to ask this question and someone said, oh, you know, I just kind of saw you in an article and I thought I'd get in touch. That's when you know, okay, right, this person doesn't know anything about me. This is the time where I really need to pitch myself. So it's a really great question to kind of find out which avenues are getting you clients and what your clients know about you already. And by learning which channels your potential customers are actually coming from, they're actually kind of giving you marketing information, and you can then decide where to be focusing your marketing budget. So if you are realizing a lot of people are hearing about you from, say, Instagram, you might think, okay, right, I really want to put in a lot more effort into growing my Instagram because that's where most of my clients are coming from. Or equally, if people say, oh, I just found you through Google, you came up as an ad, you might think, okay, right, let's up my marketing budget because that's how people are finding me as well. The next question is quite simply, what is your living situation? So you want to find out who is implementing the decisions at home. You don't want to kind of talk to someone that's maybe not the main decision maker when you think if you were to spend a lot of time and effort researching for their needs to find out they might go get rejected by the other person in the family. So it's definitely important to figure this out quite early on.
Okay, so CRM systems and client follow-up. So some of you might already know what CRM is, others don't. It's absolutely fine. So CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management, and it's essentially all about how you as a business interact with your customers or clients. So for example, it monitors how well you follow up your clients, how you data capture them, and also how you monitor your relationship with them, monitor the conversations, etc. There are lots of different softwares out there to help you keep track of this. One popular one is called Keep, that's K-E-A-P, or HubSpot. You can see them both on the screen here. And you may find it useful to look into either one of these.
So, why is CRM important? So, CRM is essentially a software that can actually increase the amount of clients you win and the sales you make. So coming from first hand, I started using HubSpot, the free version, recently, and have generally seen my income and the amount of leads I have increase quite significantly. So it's definitely, from a first hand kind of perspective, one to try. Many small businesses fail so early on in their journey because they're so desperate to get new leads that they pump lots of money into their marketing. And I've been totally guilty of this. I might have a slide on the next thing here. But in actual fact, what you want to do is focus more time on the existing leads that you already have. So just looking at this example here, if we were to spend £100 on our marketing budget, and this would get us 20 leads, and from those 20 leads, we got 5 paying clients. A lot of us would think, okay, right, I really want to get more than 5 paying clients at the end of the month. So let's just double the marketing to £200. This will then turn into 40 leads and I'll get 10 paying clients. However, this is not always the case. This is not always going to get you more paying clients. And what CRM helps you do is focus on those missed 15 leads at the start of your original marketing budget, if that makes sense. So it encourages us to pump less money into our marketing platforms out of desperation to get new clients. It allows us to closely track every lead. It also encourages interaction with existing leads rather than, say, finding new ones. And it can help us combat one of the main reasons why small businesses fail, which is customer waste. And then lastly, it's just good for kind of preventing disorganization as well. So what I would suggest is try and sign up to one of these companies and see what you can get from it. So CRM software is really important, as what it can help you do is just visualize exactly how each customer lead is dealt with, how much contact they've had with you, how they found you, what they know about you, and all of this information is stored in one really handy place. So it's definitely worth looking into if you think that you're getting quite a few leads, you're getting good traction, but you don't know how really to kind of utilize this information well, essentially.
Okay, so if you aren't quite ready to use a CRM system, which is absolutely fine, or maybe you don't have the money to invest in one either, what is really helpful is just simply inputting your client data into an Excel spreadsheet. So you might already do this, but just to go over it quickly. It's useful to note down, obviously, their name, their email, their phone number, and their date, and the date they got in touch, and also maybe dates that you followed them up, just so you can keep track of when you've got in touch with them already. Also other details such as the kind of property they own, also the kind of design they needed, the budget they had, all these details which you can refer back to later on. So why is this useful for you? Well, you can keep track of anyone who is a potential customer, and you never know when they might transfer into a paying sale. And second of all, you can follow up people if you don't hear from them. We've already touched on that already. Do you remember that top tip that Athina gave earlier to follow up clients 7 times? That sounds like a lot, and I also think, oh my God, that sounds like loads, but do it. Other people aren't thinking about it as much as you. And second of all, apparently, research shows the best time to get in touch with a client is between 4 p.m. on Wednesdays and on Thursday at 6 p.m. So you can try these times if you're really not having any luck at all, and let us know if it works.
Have you ever noticed? I always get so many emails from companies at Wednesday at 4 p.m. So I feel like it's definitely a thing.
I don't know. I definitely think more the afternoon though, for sure. I think because in the morning we all know that everyone's rushing around trying to get all their emails replied to. Yeah. And stuff they didn't finish off the day before. So afternoon for sure. Okay, so moving on to the 5 key ingredients to a successful client relationship. Okay.
So the service you offer to your clients is worth more than any marketing or promotion you do.
Okay, so one of the biggest things about running your own business is that you need to have great client satisfaction. So we're going to go over what we think are the most important things that you can do to basically achieve this. So why is this so key? Well, quite simply, it's absolutely invaluable to have satisfied clients, because essentially your clients are doing your marketing for you when they recommend you. So you can spend so much money on marketing and other things like this to try and increase your sales or your leads, but it's still not as valuable as someone simply saying to a friend or a business associate, this designer was great and you should go with them. Because it's essentially doing your marketing for free. A side note to this as well is it's really, as you probably know, when you run your own business, it is quite tough. You have no sort of higher power saying, yeah, well done, great work. This is your client that does this. And this sort of boost of self-esteem is really important to your morale and just to help you sort of work harder.
I think that's a really good point. I actually can't stress how many referrals we get as well. It really is invaluable for our business.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so we're going to give you 5 ingredients which we think and we've experienced are great for a successful client relationship. Okay, so number 1 is that communication is absolutely key. So we think that you should appear available to your client. This means replying to your client emails as quickly as possible to keep them feeling in the loop and that they're part of the design process. If you can't reply to an email straight away, for example, you might be on site or you might be busy doing something else, we think it's really important to just send a quick reply saying, hi, just saying that I'm acknowledging your email and I'll get back to you later. That's much better than just sort of blanking a client, not replying to them for a day or 2.
Definitely.
It's also, this is a good point as well for people for you designers who have experienced clients who are maybe quite needy Sometimes throughout the design process, they might be renovating, they might have a family, they might be relying on you for a lot of support, and they might need reassurance from you. So this goes back to the notion of appearing available. That is sometimes important for particular clients, and you'll know the clients that need that.
Next up is quite simply listen to your client. So value your client's opinion and prioritize their needs. Try not to let your own creative ideas take over, although it can be tempting. So do remember your client's vision needs to be kept in mind at every step along the way. So for example, if it's vital that your client has a project that has to be finished by, say, 31st of March, but there's a few items which you really think are going to look amazing in the space, but that aren't going to be there until kind of mid-April, you need to be realistic and think, okay, the client's needs need to come first. I need to find some other bits that actually will arrive on time. It's always worthwhile to kind of construct, I think we touched on this earlier, an initial questionnaire so that you have all these kind of vital details at the start of the design process that are really easily accessible. And this will help you kind of not lose track of the client's needs at site throughout the design process as well.
Okay, so I think it's the third ingredient. Yep, third ingredient is to under-promise and over-deliver. This is a great piece of advice. I can't remember where we first heard this, but sort of just tell everyone now that I meet. But basically, it's all about not promising the client too much, even when you know that you basically can't deliver it. We're all guilty of that. You know, a client gets in touch and says, I want my whole house to be ready in 3 days. And we just want the job so badly that we go, yeah, I can do that. Even though you know that a sofa actually can't come for about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That was a bit extreme, but yeah. Okay.
I feel like that's quite spot on. I always get clients coming to me and be like, yeah, it has to be done in a week. And I'm just like,
it is quite true. But so basically it's all about what I just said, not over promising them. But if you think about it like this, always overestimate the time that it will take and then communicate this to the client. So if a client, as I just mentioned, gets in touch and asks for a design in 3 days, say to them, it's actually going to take you 4 weeks. If you think that it will take you 5 weeks. So if you know it's going to take 5 weeks, go back to the client, say it's going to take 4 weeks. And if you know it's going to cost 10K, tell them it's going to take, sorry, I'm probably explaining this really badly. I'm going to start again. Right, so you should always overestimate your client. So say to the client, if you think it's going to take 5 weeks, tell them it's going to take 6 weeks. If you think it's going to cost 10K, tell them it's going to cost 15K. That means that if you end up delivering within 4 weeks, which is possible, but you're not sure whether you can make it happen, then you've over-delivered. And if you manage to do it within 10K, then you've got them under budget. So it looks great for you. And if it does end up being 5 weeks and does end up costing 15K, it's absolutely fine because you've done exactly what you said you would.
It's all about giving yourself a bit of leeway, isn't it? So things can often go wrong, things can get delayed, you can make mistakes when you budget. So by giving yourself that kind of breathing space, you're already kind of accounting for any potential mistakes with the client.
Absolutely. And we all know that a lot of things can go wrong in interior projects as well.
I don't think I've ever had a project where something hasn't gone wrong.
That would be a bit suspicious, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so next up, let me just double check. This is our penultimate point, is knowing when to be transparent. So obviously, if a problem arises but can be solved without the client needing to know or without kind of giving them unnecessary stress, then typically there's no need for them to be involved. Get the issue sorted and just let it be done. Equally, if a problem occurs that will directly affect your client, it is much better to be open with them. So unhappy clients can be transformed into loyal, happy clients if the problem is handled and solved in an honest and professional manner. Although it is tempting to tell your client what they want to hear, the main point here is just to be open and realistic with them about the situation at hand or any issues or anything that's going on. Do be professional, share your professional opinion, sometimes even if it is against their preference.
Okay, so our fifth and final ingredient is quite an obvious one, but it's so vital, and it's to maintain a positive attitude. So as a designer, it's your duty, of course, to provide a great interior design, but it's also your duty to sort of, as I said before, reassure them and exude positivity, face your client with loads of energy, loads of enthusiasm. So ways you can do this are, for example, when you sign off an email, don't just go best Amy or best Athina. Say, I'm so excited to get started on this project, or perhaps sounds like a really exciting project. I can't wait to see it take shape, or something like that. And the same when you exit your phone calls as well. This sort of positive energy is so, so key, and it just makes them sort of like you and enjoy working with you as well.
That's especially important. I think we mentioned this earlier. If they're going through like a renovation or something, and it's really stressful, you need to be that kind of like beacon of hope for them.
Sun energy.
Exactly. Always be smiling.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's the last of it.
Yeah.
Right.
If anyone has any questions, thank you for listening, by the way. Hope you found it useful.
That was really, really awesome and very, very informative. I think everybody was really silent while you ladies were chatting. And Athina, I will close out your screen so we can see your face nice and big.
Thank you.
Come back over to the screen now. And just, checking in with the audience to see if there's any questions. I like how you ladies had really informative action steps. And I think what's really important is that you really need to think of this as, yes, you're a designer, but you're also selling your services. So how do you package it and act professional when you're in somebody's space, whether it's remote or not remote? I think that that's the mindset that you do need to shift when you are really trying to grow and scale your business in an effective way. I don't see any questions, guys, from the audience.
What keeps your business going? So by keeping them happy, I mean, it's essentially like customer service in retail, isn't it? You just gotta look after them, and then they'll look after you.
Exactly, and then in turn, that somebody will refer you out to their friend if they had a pleasurable experience working with you.
Absolutely, and that's always a compliment, I think.
Questions. We had a sweet question. Very useful tips or comment. Thank you, ladies. Well done. Love the positive energy. Okay. Question. The 7 follow-ups. How do you do this? Call, email. What does that look like?
Okay. So I usually do this via email. However, if I have their telephone number, I will call them. If I can't get through, then I'll email. Does that make sense?
Yes. Got it.
Yeah.
Call.
And what I do is I will on HubSpot, you can set reminders for each person. And I also write down the last day that they contacted, so that I know that I'm not going to contact the same person twice in 3 days or whatever, or whoever's working for me can go onto HubSpot and check when they were last contacted as well.
Great. Lovely. Okay. Thank you, Amy and Athina. Have you ever had an occasion when a project has gone over budget? And if so, how did you handle this?
Amy?
I have, yes. I recently was working in a project in Berlin that went quite a lot over budget, actually. And it was that dilemma where you're thinking, do we just sort of cover it ourselves and not tell the client? But then I just thought, no, like, this isn't fair. This isn't my responsibility. And I think we sat down and looked at the figures and realized the reason it had gone over budget was because the client had made demands throughout the process that were extended from the original brief. So what we did is we just basically had a meeting with the client and said that this and this has gone over budget. We actually said that we can cut some costs later on, and then that decreased the amount it had gone over budget by. And then they were really understanding, because I think we approached it in a really professional way, and they ended up paying us more on the next 50% invoice. So that was fine. I think in terms of, I mean, I'm not sure if Athina, you've had a less positive experience than that.
I've not had a less positive experience, but I definitely have had projects where things go over budget, and it is usually because the client is wanting things which isn't in their budget. So, for instance, I have this couple at the moment. They just keep sending me stuff to buy, and I just keep saying, "I'm sorry, but you don't have the funds for this. So, unless you want to increase your budget, there's no way we can do this." And then I've offered, I've said to them, okay, if you want a £3,000 sofa, but your budget for your entire house is £8,000, why don't you get the sofa on finance? Or why don't you see which retailers you can get options for kind of 0% APR? And sometimes that does help. But yeah, it can be annoying when that happens, but it's usually rectifiable.
I think it's also, in this case, it's important to remember that with money things, it's not your fault, and you shouldn't try and absorb costs for clients, because a lot of the time, we have this sense of guilt that we should have done something differently, but in reality, it's just the client biting off more than they can chew, really. So you just have to be honest and professional and clear with them. And 9 times out of 10, they will understand. And the worst comes to worst, you just cut budget elsewhere in the project.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, really good session. Thank you. One question: with following 7 times, any tips for how to do this without annoying them?
So after about, so the first few times I'll just be like, this is me, this is what I do. Are there any packages that you're interested in? I'll just leave it quite blankly at that. If they don't reply, then I'll usually say something like, oh, we haven't heard from you, just want to check it hasn't gone into your spam. Like, here's my number, give us a call. If they don't reply after that, that's when I might start offering like a discount and put it in the email subject and be like 10% off, or I don't know, £20 off your first whatever. And I might send a couple of those. And then if I've not heard back after that, they're not wanting a discount, then that's when I'm like, okay, it's time to call it quits.
That makes sense.
Interestingly, like sometimes I've followed up the client 5 or 6 times, I've heard nothing, and then after the 7th time, they give me a call. So it's worth doing.
You can track, like, it's on the 6th.
Okay. On the under promise and over deliver, how do you know how much to charge? Is it normally an extra 5K as you did in the example?
No, that was just the sort of the first thing that came to my head. I think I was stuttering on that point a little bit. That's actually a really good question, and it's completely dependent on the kind of project you have. Because, you can work on a project where the budget is literally 1K, or you can work on a project where the budget is 30, 40, 50, 100K. So I think just think about it like relative to that, and how your client values the project as well. So, for example, if they are a client where, 20K is really not much to them, then do add that 20K if you think that you need that leeway. If it's a client that, £500 is a lot to them, then that's what you need to add. So I think it's about really understanding your client's relationship with the value of the project.
You could also say, like, there's a possibility we might not spend all this, but let's just put that higher bracket or budget in place just in case. So then they're prepared if you kind of overspend or whatever.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is come in exactly to your point. It's better to over budget than under budget. And I know I used to run an design firm here in the States, and if everybody has a different business model, right? But we were hourly, but we would have maybe a not to exceed of XYZ hours, so they could have some sort of budget, but then there's a cushion. And same thing when that was for hours, but for materials and furniture and that kind of stuff, where we would estimate this is the high, this is the low. And so they have kind of that range.
Yeah. That's good.
I just think it's always good to over budget, because I don't think I've ever had a project where I've been like drastically impressed by how much money we've saved. There was one, and it was only because the sofa was in this like flash sale, so we saved thousands. That's rare that would happen.
Yeah, and the truth is, if you're doing like a full home remodel, my significant other, my partner's a builder, and it's so funny because you give them a bid at first and they're like, oh, we're just going to pick the middle range appliances, right? Appliance is a big one. And you're doing a whole home remodel renovation, and then they start going to the place and they see all the gadgets and all the cool things. And they get kind of, when they see it on paper, it looks like one thing, and then they see it come to real life. And clients don't know as much as we know that, or I'm not the designer, as you know, and because you're an expert in your field. So you being realistic with them will help you build that trust and that rapport and that relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've had that a lot, actually.
Yeah, it will. And it's so funny. It also comes to a big thing here in the States is also like shipping and white glove delivery and that whole segment, because I don't know about you overseas, but here everybody thinks that you get everything shipped for free. And that's not how it works here. And it's a big chunk of money that's spent on delivering, getting things up the stairs, making sure that it's not nicked. And that's something really important where people are like, why are you budgeting for that? I don't understand. It's because you're the expert. You need to train them on what that cost is, and setting up the client expectation, even having a welcome packet with a client expectation sheet, I find is very helpful.
Sometimes I add on to my like budgeting, just like an overall delivery cost. Because I feel like I place so many orders now, I know what each brand charges. So I just kind of make it one lump sum, and then I just don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, you save yourself.
Just following on from that as well, I think it's really important, really early on when you're giving a client a quote, to give like an exact breakdown. I feel like in my experience, they're much more likely to go ahead if you've actually given them an idea of where all the money's going. So for example, if you just say it's going to cost 10K, they're like, why? If you're like, okay, 5K is the installation, and then we've got 2K for furniture, 1K for, I don't know, other stuff. And then they actually think, okay, this is actually how much it costs. And yeah, also you've got to remember that your installation and delivery costs, they are fixed costs. You literally cannot get them down. You know, you can decrease your fee, you can like source cheaper furniture, but the delivery and the installation, they're pretty much going to be about the same. So they're costs that you really always have to make sure that you're factoring in and letting the client know about.
Yeah, completely. Okay, somebody asked if this will be available to watch. Yes, just after we're done, you will be able to rewatch this 100%, no problem. And we will make sure if you are registered that you get a link to the recording as well. And then we have a question about, what is your average timeline from start to end of project, and how do you convey this to your client? Ooh, that's an interesting question.
I always get lumped with the clients. They're like, yeah, I need it done in 2 weeks. I'm like, oh my God. So a lot of my projects at the moment, I literally turn around of like 3 weeks, which is hard because you can't choose from all of the nice products that you want to with the long lead times. I'm waiting for that client that says I've got a year.
Yeah, I'm the same really. I have a lot of clients who want really quick turnarounds, but I've also had projects that have gone on for months. But the projects that go on for months are normally either a lot of apartments in one go, or they include renovation. And sometimes you literally cannot speed up renovation. So
yeah, there's things that are out of your control too. But it's not just furniture. Okay, what is your advice on when clients don't give you a budget?
Like that. I usually figure out what areas need doing, and then break it down per budget, and also find out where they like to shop. So if they say to, oh, I like going to IKEA, then I know that they're not really going to want to spend that much. But if they want to go to like Heels or B&B Italia or whatever, then you can kind of work out the cost for each room based on those kind of brands. So I think it's finding out their style and then breaking it down per room.
Perfect. This is great. I know you said you sent a questionnaire, but what stage do you do this at? Would this be in the second email or at the start?
I just want to say hi, Nicole, so I know who that is. What would it be? I don't know. I mean, there are 2 ways that I do this. One is that we have a questionnaire directly on our homepage, so that people enter their emails and they enter their brief. And then my first point of contact would be like, oh, it's so nice to hear about your living room. Let's do this, this, and this, and schedule a call. So that's one way of doing it. The other way, I think, is maybe have a bit of back and forth conversation first. Find out what it is that they want from you, and then you can send them a questionnaire. And I usually do it before sending an invoice as well, because it's a bit more informal. It's like you're kind of helping them. You're finding all about them rather than let's just get the money in. So I'd probably do it quite early on.
I would agree. If you're sending the type form questionnaire or sort of like a written questionnaire, do what Athina does as well. I think if you're not, I think it's always good to ask the questions in the first phone call. So I would try and call a client at the earliest point possible, because I just think it's a really personal way to speak to them. They can also just they hear your voice. It's a lot more, it just seems a lot better to transfer them into a paying client. And then in that phone call, just have your list of questions with you and get it all out of the way then. And then it just, you don't have to ask them later. You've got it all there. You can just get started ASAP.
I think that makes sense. Okay. Thank you very much, Amy and Athina, for the candid answers. Much appreciated. Do you make the clients pay upfront in full for items that you source for them, and do you pass on or share discounts?
Do you want to do that one, Amy?
Yeah. Yes. I wouldn't order furniture without a client paying me for it. In fact, it actually baffles me that people do this. And if someone doesn't want to,
People do that.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And then they get paid later. Yeah, for sure.
So scary. It's so scary. You're responsible for the furniture. And if the client bounces and is out of here, then you're stuck with the furniture and no money.
It's really, I mean, obviously it depends because we're a small business. So of course, like for us, it means a lot. I know some suppliers in the UK, you can order from them and then they just accept 50% of the payment because they do it all on credit with where they're getting the furniture from and stuff. So obviously if you're a huge business, you don't maybe feel it so much, but I would never order furniture without having the funds already. And if that affects the timeline, then that's simply not my problem. And it really doesn't bother me at all. And I think in terms of the discount, so if it's a small private client and you're doing their house or maybe you're doing one room or something, yes, of course, passing on the discounts is a really nice thing to do. And it also just makes you seem like you value them and that you're trying to help them even further. If it is a company or maybe a developer or something and I'm ordering from a supplier and they're giving me 5 to 10% commission, then I will keep that because it's more of like a B2B transaction. And that's just how interior designers make their money. It's just sort of like a fact.
Yeah.
And if it ends up making it a bit too expensive or something, then I'll just work it out another part of the budget that another part of money goes to them or something. But yeah, it depends on how big the client is and whether it's B2B or B2C.
Yeah.
And it depends on what the discount is that you're getting. Obviously, your business models in the UK are different than designers' business models in the States, and everybody's going to have a different business model. But to your point, I think to highlight there, the takeaway is that's how you make your money, right? Design businesses carry overhead, and you have to have business insurance, and you have to have a lawyer review your contract, and that purchase fee or markup or discount that you're getting, but you're taking, however you want to structure it, is also not necessarily like you're taking money that isn't yours. It could be part of your business model.
And if the client finds out or contests it, you could always kind of say, well, that's why I keep my fees, an affordable price because this is how I make my money.
Yeah, there's no standardization in design, unfortunately. It's not like in retail where you buy a shirt and the shirt is priced at that shirt and you go home with it. It's an ever-evolving flow. And I know some design firms that have a flat fee structure. And in that same design firm, they also have an hourly structure. So they structure it around what the project is and what that specific client is. So yes, it does get confusing. But if you have a way to organize your business and your administration and you have a team that knows how to leverage the technology that you're using, and you set it up properly in that system, it becomes streamlined. I think that's a really hard question to answer because for every designer, it's going to be different. But I do like the idea of keeping your hourly, like even price with your area. Here, I know a lot of designers openly talk about what they charge per hour, and it's all based upon geography, cost of living. And most designers in the US, I would have to say, do charge a purchase fee or a markup on product. And it's also about the relationship that you're negotiating with your supplier to get that discount and how big that discount is. If it's nominal, I mean, you can pass it on.
Yeah. That's a nice thing about e-design is that all your fees are kind of out there as well. So there's no hidden things and they know what to expect. So yeah, if anyone's interested on kind of e-design prices, all of ours are on our website.
Yeah, you guys are really good at that. You figured it out. I've seen some people not be able to figure it out, but it's a nice it's an affordable option for somebody that wants to hire a designer but has a different kind of budget. So you can cater to all of those leads that are coming your way and say, okay, this is the route that you should take.
Exactly.
On the back end of the question we just asked, do you take a contingency in case you go over budget?
Yeah.
Do you, Amy?
Not if it's similar to what I said to the last question, not if it's a 1-bedroom design or something, then, and if it's online design, definitely not. But if it is a big project, yes, of course, because you just don't know what will go on. It won't be a huge contingency. I've spoken to some other interior designers that have really big contingencies. I don't personally, but yes, I would at least have one.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
Yeah. Perfect. How do you arrange deliveries? Do you collect all items in a warehouse and arrange a delivery on one day, or does each supplier make separate deliveries? Do you tell the client what delivery to expect on which day? Oh, this is such a good question. I'm so curious how you do it in the UK. I know how we do it here.
So obviously, Amy and I work on different projects because she's in Berlin. So I don't know if you have a different way of doing this to me, but there are two ways that I would do it. So if, for example, the client hadn't moved into the property yet, or they didn't have access to keys, but they want to get everything kind of done as soon as they move in, what you can do is I would have everything delivered to a safe store unit, because it's really cheap. You can get them really big, and they actually accept deliveries for you. You have your own key. You can go there as much as you want.
They accept them.
Everything is in one place, and then
do they inspect them too, or they just like, okay, let's say you have a delivery and it's like a light and it might break during shipment. Does the safe store, did they actually inspect them, or they just receive the packages?
Just receive the package. So as soon as you know that you've got any deliveries, I would maybe go there every couple of days and check what's arrived and like pick it off. But it's a really affordable way of doing it, and then it just means you can get a van and take it all over on one day. I think this is like maybe £20 a week or something. So it's not expensive. The other thing I would do is I would probably just dedicate certain days to be on site for an install and just have everything delivered to the address, and I'd be there, or someone else would be there to accept deliveries. I don't know if it's the same in America, but the UK, you've got like DPD and Yodel, and they're really good at notifying you when stuff's arriving. You can change the dates. You can say, give it to concierge, whatever. So it's quite unusual that you'll ever have too many problems with that, I think.
And this is definitely an important part of the process, because this is where, obviously, if it's not an e-design client, they are really relying on you to do that install. And it helps make you look professional if you have everything coming in one delivery, and it kind of has that wow factor. And that's where you can also, if you have an install day, have your photographer be able to style it, get your photos, and just kind of in an organized fashion.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Absolutely. I sort of do the same thing as Athina. I used to have a studio that I rented and worked in, and then could order everything there, which was amazing, but not anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, I think the key is having one space that you can get everything delivered to. It literally solves all your problems. And of course, if whoever's in that space can accept them, that's great. In Germany, the deliveries are nowhere near as good as the UK, so I experienced loads of problems. And one way I've had to combat that is just by using one supplier sometimes for a project, and then they just deliver it all on one day. Alternatively, I think if it's quite a small project, then you can just organize deliveries to come around the same times, and then it's your responsibility, or maybe you've got an intern or something who can be there with the keys to be on site to accept the deliveries.
Also, there's a lot of companies in the UK now have B2B services, so you could always call up and speak to them and ask whether they have one. And what that means for anyone who doesn't know is they kind of have like almost like a trades team, where you get a good discount, and they usually have an install team. You arrange it every day, and they come, they put the mirrors up, they pick it up, whatever. So like Habitat does that. I think May do that. So yeah, definitely one to look into.
Also, if you're a really, really small business, like perhaps you're a freelancer who's just started out, or it's just you working alone or something, and your projects aren't that big, what you could do is you could order all the key big pieces of furniture, for example, the bed, sofa, wardrobe, anything that's packed in big packages directly to the space. You could order it from one supplier, so it all comes on one day. And then smaller items you can even have delivered to your home, and then you transport them yourself. That's if you're sort of really small and you don't have the luxury of a space, or maybe budget for storage or something. All the key furniture from one supplier.
I do want to highlight how you said that as you are like the designer, the principal of the company, it's best to hire like an intern or an assistant, or even if it's somebody that you bring in and you don't have full time, but to help with kind of these deliveries. Outsourcing, I think, is key. So if you can outsource this service and you're paying somebody, I don't know what the rate is where you are, 10, 20 pounds an hour, I don't know, that's much more a better use of your time, and will make the process a lot more efficient. But you do need to hire somebody that is very thorough and can, you need to train them on what they're looking for. It's not just opening a package and saying it's here, it's checking the whole package. But I think the idea and how to make the most amount of money per project is by outsourcing the things that you know are not saving you time and not help and not helping your bottom line, essentially.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, it's so stressful doing it by yourself.
Yeah, it's so stressful.
And it's a necessary evil where it's like, you need to do it, but it's not the best use of your time in particular.
Yeah.
Also, it's not the skill that the project is demanding from you. The project demands like your design and your communication with the client and the overall project management. If someone else can do a small job, then get them to do it. If it costs you 20 quid, 30 quid, it's worth it because it saves you time and energy.
Yep. Perfect. Okay. Last question here before we wrap up. And then I know some of you have some Ivy questions, so I'll make sure to answer those. I'm sorry I missed the first few minutes, but I was wondering if you covered how to initially find private clients looking for a designer when referrals from previous clients have not happened, though they were delighted with the work.
I'm trying to think. I really put myself out there on every platform. So I was signed up to what's that one called? The one with the freelancers, Amy.
Where you register, where you present yourself as a freelancer, the creative one.
No, I have to remember the name of it. I can't remember. People Per Hour. That's it. I put myself on People Per Hour. I put myself on Gumtree because then you get local people looking for designers in your area. I offered to do a bit of work for free in order to get referrals. I think it's literally just putting yourself on as many avenues as possible to get some clients, and then they should start coming in. If you're really desperate, you could try Google AdWords and just kind of bump yourself up on some local searches. That might help you get some initial clients.
Awesome. And then last question here. Do you normally work on a fixed price or an hourly rate?
How do you do it, Amy, in Berlin? I do a fixed price.
I do a fixed price normally. If it's a small project, I'll just work out how many days it would get me, and then I just have a day rate.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And how did you come to that day rate where you know that you're actually making money and you're not burning yourself on hours?
So I would factor in the cost of an assistant and what I personally feel like I'd like to get paid, and then put that as my day rate.
Got it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Same. And also, I think asking other people what they're charging.
Yeah.
Because I remember, I think in the beginning I was charging a lot, and then I sort of spoke to other people who are much more experienced than me, and they weren't charging so much. And I thought, okay, maybe I just need to down my price a bit.
Also, if you know that you're going to be there for like 14 days, and the client's obviously going to be like, that's a lot of money for me to fork out every day. So I think you need to let them know up front, and a day rate maybe cap. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think exactly to your point, geography, it's different everywhere that you are,
Yeah.
And finding together with your community and finding out what other people are charging. We really believe in community over competition. So kind of forming your design network. I think everybody brings their own value. It's not like competition necessarily. It's really, there's enough work for everybody. So I think that
it's also good to read your client as well, and also assess how much you want the project. I've taken on projects before which really don't make me loads of money, but it's such a creative project that I know is great for the portfolio. And then there's other projects where you actually charge way more than you would have normally because the client's got the money and that you can. So it's about assessing how much you want the project, or how much it means to you really. You don't have to take on everything.
Well, thank you so much, ladies, for joining us today. Very, very helpful insights. I definitely want to make sure everybody knows that you will get sent a recording of this. And thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Ciao. And then if you ladies want to stay on and gentlemen want to stay on, we'll be going through a couple of your Ivy questions. I saw some questions come through and just kind of explaining how Ivy can really leverage and help you manage once you get the lead and you get the project, all of those moving parts that, as we talked about, you might not have the resources. I always look at Ivy as kind of your virtual design assistant. And I think, like I said, outsourcing is really, really key and really, really fundamental for you as you're running your business and you are getting things set up. Even if you've been in business for 10 years, just the basics for Amy and Athina, they've really figured out their equation of what works for them in terms of billing out and how they structure their business. I think it's always really smart to track your time. So you can select your project that you're working on, select the rate that you want to put in here. You can save it in here automatically. And even if you're not billing out hourly, I still recommend tracking your hours so that you can understand your overall sense of profitability. And that sometimes is nice for a client. Again, you have to read the client. You can track your time. We have a mobile app on your phone as well. Very easy to do this. But I always say in the beginning, or even if you've been in business for 10 years, just understanding how long things are actually taking you so that you could, if you want to, get to that flat fee structure so that you make sure that you're making enough money per hour. So if you are sending out an hourly invoice or a custom invoice, you can actually go into the project and you can generate a time billing invoice right here. And you can actually send this out to your client directly through the system. Super easy, looks really professional, just so you can see what it looks like on your client's end. It has your logo, your company information. You can pay with a credit card if you want to. It's really easy for the client to input their information. Again, you don't have to take credit card if you don't want to. They can pay you however they choose, but Ivy really creates that beautiful invoice for you. There is a 2.5% credit card fee. If you don't want to take credit card, you can just uncheck that option. With credit card, the money does go into your bank account in about 2 to 3 business days. So that's pretty nice, pretty easy. I hear so many designers saying, you know, I'm up till 2 o'clock in the morning doing my invoicing. That's why we recommend tracking your time on the go, sending your invoices out through Ivy, getting paid through this system. It just makes the process a little bit less administrative and a little bit more just fast and quick, and helps you, allows you to be spending time on design. So let's go into a project. I saw some questions about this, about once you're in a project and what that looks like. So Ivy has a product clipper. Again, once you've done all your design, you really want to have something that helps you put it all into the proposal so that you can present to your clients, you can get that signed off, order the products, get it delivered, do your photo shoot. So Ivy really understands your workflow as a designer. So here I can go to my supplier's website. Let's say I'm on made.com, and I can just take my Ivy clipper. I can clip these products right here. Very easy. Do you see how that Ivy clipper just pops up? You just click into it. It grabs the item from the supplier's website. The Ivy clipper is an extension that nests on your Chrome browser. And then you can just select the product title. You can add the cost right here. You can add a markup, and you can say, okay, I want the cost. It costs maybe $6.49, maybe that's a discount you get, and you want to charge a 5% markup fee. Well, it actually calculates the profit for you, and you can see the client price would be £688, whereas if they bought it online themselves, it would be $699. So they're still saving some money. That's great. You can include your VAT. You can add a client description if you want to. You can select your vendor right here. And then you can select a project that you want to add it to. I can select a room, and I can add all of my additional details, the manufacturer, the SKU, the dimensions, all of that information. And in order to click that, let's say that dimensions right here, I just hover over the item and I click dimensions. Same thing right here. I hover over walnut finish. Very easy, and I go to finish color, and it automatically populates that information. You can also put the recommended retail price in here as well. If you want your client to see all of that information, I can add tags if I want to, and I can save it to Ivy. So really quick and easy to save products for your presentation, and then I can go back to my client's project right here. I can create a new proposal. And I can even generate my own custom tear sheets in this project. So that's what's really nice. I saved it to my Cotswolds project. That table pops up right there. And I can add anything from my library that I've already clipped into this proposal. So maybe I want tile, plumbing, paint color, any of those items, not just furniture, can be added to the proposal for your client. I can add service items in here as well. let's say I have shipping, I have painting, and I can even add in my own custom images here, which is really nice from my desktop right here. So I can say, I want this custom sofa. So it doesn't have to be clipped from your supplier's website. Okay. I can say custom sofa right here. And then you see I can add my cost. I can add a markup percentage if I want. I can add shipping. I can add a markup, and I can add my custom room tags as well. And then before I send this out to my client, I can make sure how much money am I making on this? 58 pounds. Well, that doesn't look that great. Then maybe I would want to go in and add a little bit of markup right here as well, so that maybe I was making a little bit more money. And now let's look at it. And that looks a little bit healthier. Okay. And then this is where you can request a deposit. You can say 50%, or you can say pay in full. I always like pay in full, my personal opinion. And then you can save this, and you can actually generate your tear sheets and send this out to your client directly through the system. So really easy to generate your tear sheets. You would just click into this button right here, and it will pop up into your spec sheets. We say tear sheets in the States. You say spec sheets, I think, in the UK and beyond. And this is what the spec sheets look like. You can add pricing. You can leave pricing off. It creates a very nice presentation for you and your clients. You can also add an attachment to the proposal with your client expectations, with your contract, whatever you want that to look like. So when you send this to your client, they are getting a full package from you. And this is really great for e-design as well. You can actually hyperlink the link, so if they're doing the purchasing themselves, they can actually go in and order that item themselves if you're allowing them to. Super easy, super professional. And then once you've received the money from your client, you can go ahead and create your pro forma or your purchase order, and you can send out that pro forma directly to your supplier through the system. What I like here is that it actually, if you add the date in, will actually add to your calendar. And this calendar will be your running kind of log of everything that's shipping in. If you're doing the thing that Athina was talking about and you have things shipping, you will live and die by this calendar. And then you can check things off in here once items are received. And then you also have your project tracker. So if you wanted to print out a to-do list for install day of all of the items that have been approved and shipped, you can add your custom columns over here with item received, and you can print this out. We call it your FF&E schedule. You can print it out via PDF or Excel so that you have kind of a running list of everything for that project. Really keeps you organized, keeps everything streamlined in one place, and helps keep your assistant or maybe that potential person that you hire just for install days organized and on top of things. Makes it hard for them to not be organized. Then, of course, you have your suppliers and your clients that you can manage in Ivy. You can also add your supplier login information with their account and username. And then you have your detailed product library. So every time you clip an item, it will save to your product library. Pretty quick, pretty easy. Ivy allows you to pull reports as well. Oops, clicked into the wrong thing. For transactions, project payments, time billing. Maybe you want to go back and recap the entire month and see how many hours you actually worked and make sure that you are making enough money. That's what this reporting section is for. Makes it super easy. You also get your dedicated account manager. So if you do sign up to Ivy, you will be able to have access to your dedicated account manager. You can also check out our other industry webinars directly through your Ivy account. And then if you need more Ivy training, we have a bunch of videos, and definitely make sure that you join our Facebook group. Very, very, very important. The Facebook group is a key to your success, where you can really communicate with other designers in your area. We have a specific UK Facebook group as well. So that's really exciting. People are asking, how much are you charging? Where can I get this item from? What discount do you have with this supplier, to really help you propel your business forward? And a couple of other questions here that I didn't get to. Can I only use furniture suppliers that have a relationship with Ivy? Nope. You can add any suppliers. So this little clipper that I was talking about is a clipper. It's an extension that lives on your Chrome browser. So you just pull up your supplier website, and that little clipper will clip the product directly and all of the information like I showed you. No direct relationship with Ivy. You can clip from anybody's website. Sometimes there's like one-off things where it has a hover image. So there's some workarounds, but we can, if you are using Ivy, I can show you how to work around that. Great. And if you have any other questions like pricing for Ivy and what we can offer you, go ahead, click the green button that says get your free Ivy consultation. I will pop in Lisa. My name's Risa, but I will pop in Lisa, who's actually on your time zone and manages our team over in London. If you want to connect with her and learn anything else about Ivy, we can definitely get you started with your one-on-one consultation. And thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate it. Lisa at ivy.co. I'll pop in Lisa's information here. Thanks again.